Hi, I'm Nick, and welcome to the first in my new series on Star Wars Infinities. Star Wars Infinities is like What If comics from Marvel, but for the Star Wars universe. One event will be changed, and we'll follow the story from there down a new and different path. It was a really fun and exciting experiment, and I hope you'll enjoy it as much as I did. In some ways, it's even more fun and exciting than the canon timeline, because here, anything really can happen. In this first book, A New Hope, published in 2001 by Marvel Comics, the event that has changed is that Luke fails to destroy the Death Star at the end of A New Hope. Let's begin. We begin with a summary of the film up until Luke's trench run. Everything seems to be proceeding as normal. Han arrives to chase off Vader, and Luke fires his torpedoes into the exhaust chute. But after he does, nothing happens. Due to faulty wiring or some other error, the torpedoes detonated before they reached the reactor. The remains of the rebel fleet are forced to scatter and escape, and Princess Leia fears that with the battle station intact, the rebellion has no future. The Death Star fires on Yavin 4, and Luke bears witness to ultimate disaster as the planet is struck. However, it seems the torpedoes did have an effect, as the weapon fired at less than full power. Yavin 4 remains intact, and the rebel leaders are given a chance to evacuate. The rebels' communications are destroyed, though, so they have no way to alert the fleet that they have survived the attack. Han and Luke pull some fast maneuvers to escape the horde of TIE fighters, and with a second shot from the Death Star, Yavin 4 is destroyed. The rebels from the planet have boarded a few large cruisers, but they are surrounded by Imperial ships and are about to be taken prisoner. Luke, believing Leia and the rebel leaders to be dead, is driven mad with rage and makes a suicide run at them. But Ben speaks to him in his mind and talks him back to calmness. He rejoins Han and they escape through an asteroid field. As Luke and Han make their escape, Grand Moff Tarkin and Darth Vader welcome their new guests to Imperial custody. When Luke exits hyperspace, he tells Han that his X-Wing has been too damaged during the escape and must be abandoned, and R2 has been hit. They join Han on the Millennium Falcon, still determined to find a way to destroy the Death Star. Han tells Luke that they had one shot and lost, and the rebellion has been cancelled. Luke flies into another rage, and he and Han fight over the issue, and Luke ignites his lightsaber. Ben appears to him as a Force ghost, warning him that now, while his training is incomplete, is the most dangerous time for him, and not to fall to the dark side. He tells Luke to seek out Yoda on Dagobah. Luke calms down and asks Han for his help. Meanwhile, Darth Vader arrives on Coruscant to present his prize, Princess Leia, to the Emperor. He has made his home in the former Jedi temple. Leia rebukes him for the destruction of Alderaan, but he is unabashed. He tells her that she is not to be executed, but rather cared for, much like a pet. As she is taken away to begin her obedience training, the Emperor confers with Vader. He asks Vader if victory has softened his resolve. Vader says no, but he senses a disturbance in the Force. The Emperor tells him it is meaningless, and to see to the princess for their greatest triumph is yet to come. Han, Chewie, Luke, and a repair R2 arrive at Dagobah. They are soon met by a small green creature who invites them to his home. Just as Luke is getting fed up with his games, Han reveals Yoda's ruse. Back on Coruscant, Vader presents Leia with a peace offering, C-3PO. He tells her that she has more choices than she knows, and he offers her another gift, Obi-Wan's lightsaber. She takes it and immediately attacks him. He easily parries her assault, encouraging her to release her anger, telling her that it makes her strong. Her training has begun. But Leia would rather die than serve the Empire, and she attempts to make that happen, but Vader force-pulls the lightsaber from the grasp before she can ignite it, telling her that she has no idea what she can become. Luke has begun his own training with Yoda. Yoda teaches him the same lessons that he does in another timeline, and Luke faces a choice when Han tells him he is leaving. Part of Luke is drawn to leave with him, telling him that he could do good out in the galaxy, but instead he chooses to remain and finish his training, telling Han that he will know when Luke needs a ride. On Coruscant, Vader speaks with Leia on a roof garden. He surprises her by telling her the time of war is ending, as is the rule of the Emperor. He tells her that the future will need new leaders whose dreams are not made small by a thirst for power, that the vast resources of the Empire could be turned toward peace and prosperity. This is what he meant by her choices being more than she knows. On Dagobah, the time has come for Luke to face the trial of the cave. Only here, when he strikes the head off Darth Vader, it is not his own face he sees within the mask, but that of his unknown sister. 5 years later, Han and Chewie share drinks on Ord Mantell, while on Coruscant a celebration is held for the anniversary of the end of the rebellion and the christening of the new Imperial Senate. Han sees Leia on the news and is shocked to see her wearing an Imperial uniform and decrying her previous rebellion. She says the Empire has forgiven her, and that restoring the Senate is an attempt to bind the wounds of war. Han smashes the holographic display in anger, and is forced to make a quick exit from the bar. Han and Chewie get recognized by bounty hunters and escape through the city streets by commandeering a cart of junk, though it crashes into an Imperial patrol car. Now chased by both bounty hunters and stormtroopers, they quickly start up the Falcon and leave the planet. Still not out of the woods, they evade TIE fighters as they leave the star system. They're headed for Dagobah, where Luke awaits them as a fully trained Jedi. Luke tells Yoda that he is having visions again, and Yoda tells him it is time to return to the cave. Inside, Luke faces Vader once more, but this time without his lightsaber, having taken Yoda's advice to leave his weapons behind. He dodges Vader's swing, and is rewarded with a vision of the larger story of Star Wars. He sees Qui-Gon, a young Anakin, Padme and Shmi Skywalker. He also sees the Emperor, Darth Maul, Darth Vader, and Leia in her Imperial garb. Han returns and they have dinner together. Yoda tells them that their destinies are intertwined. Han tells Luke that Leia is alive and serving the Empire. They agree that they must rescue her. Yoda tells Luke that though he has completed his training, he is not ready to face Vader until he knows the truth. And Yoda tells Luke that Darth Vader is his father. Yoda explains that the anger in him was too dangerous, that he wasn't ready to know the truth yet. His impatience and his anger unchecked are Luke's path to the dark side, just as Vader's fear was his. Luke comes to terms with this new reality, and Yoda tells him that Leia is his sister. Obi-Wan appears as a Force ghost and explains himself to Luke, and they both tell him that Leia has great potential, that the death of her planet put her at risk of falling to the dark side. Vader is not a suitable successor, but the daughter of Vader would serve just as well as his son. Ben says farewell to Luke, wishing he could join his cause and help. Luke, Han, and Chewie prepare to leave, and Yoda asks to come along. He says that he has fond memories of his days on Coruscant. Meanwhile, on Coruscant, the newly renamed Justice Star passes in front of Coruscant's sun to celebrate a new era of peace. It will be the new seat of the galactic government and will travel the galaxy. Vader tells Leia he wishes the Emperor had been well enough to be with them, and Vader says that her new world should be celebrated by those who will live in it. The Emperor seems only to be feigning weakness though, and he is pleased with Leia's ambition, which makes her powerful. Our heroes are on their way to Coruscant to rescue Leia, and Yoda says that he is looking forward to the Emperor's celebration. They arrive in the middle of a fleet of Star Destroyers, TIE Fighters, and other Imperial ships. If this was still wartime, they wouldn't last 5 seconds. That was 5 years ago. They make their approach as Vader tells the Emperor he can't tell the source of the disturbance in the Force. The Emperor tells him that it is his son. Yoda departs the Falcon at the Justice Star, telling Luke their destinies lie along different paths. He easily mind-tricks the stormtroopers, telling them he is a guest of Grand Moff Tarkin, and clearing the Falcon for departure. The Falcon leaves without incident. Han and Luke go to the Emperor's Citadel on Coruscant. Chewie stays with the Falcon, and Han reminds Luke he's still due a reward for rescuing the princess last time. Which he is. Yoda greets Admiral Tarkin as an old friend, reminding him of the days of the Republic. He controls Tarkin's mind completely with the Force, and demands a tour of the station and a demonstration of its power. In the Citadel, Luke and Han make their way to the throne room, but are intercepted by the Emperor's royal guard, here armed with dual-bladed lightsabers. Han unleashes a flurry of blaster bolts, while Luke readies his lightsaber. Luke slashes one of the dual blades apart at the hilt, and blocks a strike from another, while Han struggles to connect with the shot. Luke backhands a guard as Han gets his blaster sliced in two. He calls for help, and Luke force pulls a saber off the ground. Han ducks just in time as the dual blades cut down 2 guards at the waist. The final guard blocks Luke's hilt with his own broken hilt and kicks him away, but before he can deliver a death blow, Han stabs him through the back. Luke and Han find C-3PO, who urges them to follow him to Leia, who needs help, but when they find her, they're in for a shock. Leia Organa now stands at the Emperor's right hand, clad in black. The Emperor says that she has seen the futility and waste of rebellion, and he hands Darth Vader's lightsaber to her. Leia ignites it and faces Luke. Luke tells him that he's wasting his time, that nothing will make him fight his sister. Leia is shocked by this revelation, but even more shocking is C-3PO grabbing Han by the neck and putting a blaster to his head, demanding that Han drop his weapon. The Emperor commands Luke to fight, or else Han will die. As Leia steps forward, Vader processes the fact that his daughter has also survived. Luke blocks Leia's attack, as outside the Justice Star under Yoda's command via Admiral Tarkin lives up to its new name as it begins to fire on the assembled Star Destroyers, starting with the Super Star Destroyer Executor. The Emperor demands that Vader find Tarkin and explain the friendly fire, but Vader is engrossed in the fight, and he tells Leia to fight harder. Luke deflects her strikes, asking her to listen to her feelings. Luke says he can feel the conflict within her, and Leia begins to reply that there is no conflict, but she snaps out of her trance-like state, and finally her heart remembers Luke. She stops fighting and turns to Vader, calling him father for the first time. Vader is paralyzed, unsure what to do, who to serve. The Emperor rages that his feelings have betrayed them both. Luke tells him that all of them are Skywalkers, noble Jedi like the generations that preceded them, and Luke tells him that it's over. The Emperor unleashes a fury of Force lightning on both Luke and Leia, intending to kill them. He says that if they don't have the strength to be the future, then the dark side will make sure they won't live to see it. Vader watches intently, and finally leaps and attacks the Emperor, interrupting his attack. The Emperor prepares to turn on Vader, but Yoda comes on his view screen. The Emperor rages at him about the power of the dark side, and Yoda points out that it didn't save his fleet. Luke and Leia slip away while the old enemies trade barbs. Yoda says he is coming to see the Emperor now, when the Emperor dares him to come down and face him. Luke and Leia find Han and C-3PO, and all of them make a mad dash through an army of stormtroopers back to the ship. The Justice Star looms large on the horizon, far closer to the planet than anything that large should be. The Falcon escapes the surface as brilliant light fills the Emperor's throne room. Yoda crashes the Justice Star into Coruscant, destroying the Emperor's Citadel and a large chunk of the planet. Han admires the light show, as Luke admires his master's work, knowing that Yoda is with the Force now. Many difficult years later, years of sacrifice and healing, and Leia is being crowned Chancellor of the New Republic, and she swears to share the people's commitment to bringing peace and justice to the galaxy. C-3PO is back to his old self, and just as he says he misses R2, who is on the Justice Star with Yoda, a familiar excited beeping is heard. R2's memories were backed up on the Falcon before he left, and now he's complaining about his new body and telling C-3PO he looks old. Some things change, but some things never do. Luke points out to Leia the Force ghosts of Obi-Wan, Yoda, and Anakin, that's the original old Anakin by the way, as the story ends. Well, that was quite a ride, huh? Let me know what you thought in the comments, if you thought it was a believable alternate path, or if anything seemed out of place to you, or just any thoughts really, what you liked or didn't like. And do join me next time for Star Wars Infinities, The Empire Strikes Back, and we'll find out what might have happened if Luke had died on Hoth and never made it to Dagobah.